Okay. And I was letting you start because I'm normally the one who jumps in.
I know, and I'm always the one who just goes on and on and on and on forever.
So, go for it.
So, hello and welcome to another edition of Die Rollin.
Where's your t-shirt?
It's too small.
Ah.
Lockdown has not been kind. Lockdown has not been kind. And I need to pop onto Spreadshirt, link below, to order another one.
Is that where other people can get these really cool t-shirts from?
That's true, yeah, that's absolutely right.
Nice. And if people buy enough of those, it will give us enough money to buy more board games.
Like a GoPro.
Or a GoPro.
Yeah.
There we go. So, food for thought.
Food for thought. Cool, so welcome. So, what are we playing today?
We're playing Burning Suns today, which is
quite ironic because there is no sun today.
Awful out there. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some warmth out of the board game world today. And it's a 4X style game. Do you know what a 4X style game is?
It's like an immersion game.
An immersion game, sure. It's like a galactic empire conquest building kind of game. Can you hear something?
Will! Stop going to the loo.
Oh, he's in his litter box
again.
He's
in his litter box again. Bloody
so
Will.
I'm glad you can't see him because it's... Yeah. And he makes eye contact with you, wouldn't he? Anyway, so it's a 4X game, so you're basically going around, you're exploring, you're exploiting, you're expanding, and you're exterminating. I think that's the 4Xs. But yeah, it's like Galactic Era.
And I really like Galactic Era. In fact, the Kickstarter's probably ended, but it's just recently been on Kickstarter and it's done really well. So
yeah, so these games, they often take several hours to play. It's not something you can probably play in an evening. It's more of if you're having a game day, which in these kind of trying times is very hard to get when you're in different tier levels.
What we have seen in a couple of these, they do have a pause mechanism so you can pause it and come back to it. So it'd be interesting to see if there's not one built in, whether or not that's something that you can adopt.
You could even play this remotely.
Really?
Have a camera set up.
Yeah.
Get all set up, get other people to roll dice at home and stuff.
Nice.
Perfect. Anyway, we're going to get this to the table and see what it looks like. So, this is Burning Suns. It took us around 15 to 20 minutes to set this whole thing up, which for a 4X game is probably about right. Some of these games can take around half an hour to set up, and these are games that are going to take you about 3 hours sometimes to play, so you know what you're getting in for just with the setup. So, one of the really cool things about this game is from the very offset, you have some choices. So to begin with, you have your ideology, and you get to choose, you're shuffled 2 of these and you get to choose one, or if you're Jamie, you'll just pick whatever you like. This is basically your technology tree during the game, so these are different abilities that you'll be able to do as you level them up. Then you choose which race you're going to be. So you're also shuffled 2 cards, you get to choose one of them, or if you're Jamie, you'll just choose the humans, because it's the easiest thing for him to actually to play with. The actual boards here are quite different as well, because you've obviously got your different kind of units and stuff, and you also have different upgrades you can do depending on who you've chosen. One really cool thing about this game, the miniatures for the different alien races, they're all different. So my Dreadnought and Jamie's Dreadnought, totally different miniatures, which is really cool. The only thing that Jamie didn't like was the fact that these guys aren't to scale with regards to your ships. And your big ships, they have got dice in there to track what kind of hit points they've got left, which is also pretty cool. The last thing is you have your framework. You'll shuffle 2 of these, you get to choose one, and this tells you your abilities during the game, so how fast you can move, what your kind of diplomacy is like, how many rerolls you get during combat, and also what your agent limit is. So during this game, you're going to be placing your leaders on these 4 action boards, and depending on what you choose here, depends on what you can do during your turn. This also comes into who's going to be the next player next round. So for instance, if I had my guys there, and Jamie had a guy there, whoever had the last kind of leader, this side of the board, will be going first next round. There's lots of things going on in this game. There's lots of rules to learn. But you have these really nice player aids. They tell you what you do during your turn and also what all these things mean. And that's pretty much it. Apart from, you also get 8 race cards, and you get to choose 4 of these things. So every game is going to be different depending on which faction you're going to be. There's a lot of replayability in this. So we're going to get to the table and see how long it takes us to annihilate Will, or for Jamie just to destroy everyone, or for me to win sneakily. Okay, so you can reveal 1 to 2 unexplored systems / anomalies by flipping them face up.
Oh, so I can reveal this one as well.
Indeed you can. Cool, great. So we've got 2 examples here. So the first one you found is an inhabited system. Okay, they have to be they can either be persuaded through diplomacy or assaulted in order to gain control of them.
Oh, I know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. The hostile systems, this thing over here, has to be assaulted and the militia regiments defeated before you gain control of them. So what's the militia size there?
2.
If you grab 2 of the little dudes, not those, they're ships.
Which one?
These guys.
This one's...
Yeah. So 2 of them are on there. Cool. So that's your scan. Your explore even. Will, your explore?
Yeah. So what's the militia on the inhabited?
There isn't any.
So it's literally just...
You have to go in and you have to assault it.
I'm going to explore this. Shall I wait a minute or shall I?
No, you can do it.
Okay, cool. So I found an uninhabited zone, which I get. Which if you inhabit it, you get that, and then I could reveal that. What if I reveal an anomaly?
Yep. So that is a wormhole. So you can, if you find another one of those, you can teleport around to it.
Nice.
And you found an inhabited place as well.
Inhabited, yeah.
Okay, cool. So next we do jumping, starting with Jamie. So jumping, you can move 1 of your fleets or armies up to X systems. So your speed is 2.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you have to go there, Jamie?
And I can move all of these, can't I?
Move it higher.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then I'm moving. So
I'm next.
you're
I'm next. I can't actually. Well, actually, can I move through things? No, jumping into a system with an opposing fleet will end your jump action.
So you would stay where you are, or
I'm going to avoid my jumping this round then because I can't.
okay.
If you'd gone there, Jamie, I could have gone to the middle.
And then
I'm going in the
right.
middle.
And then I'm moving my fleet down. I'm going over here.
Okay.
Can you move through people's homeworlds? I assume you can, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you can take them though, because it's got a
No,
thing.
no, no.
Can't be reached. No, you can't get there by other empires through actions or abilities. So no.
I think that's just where our units just appear.
Yeah. Right, so now it's scanning. So Jamie, you're doing the first scan. So you're rolling a d8. You want to get under 5. You got 3, so you can choose this repair droid or the top thing from there.
Oh, no, this is difficult because it's a gamble, right? Because if you don't have the thing, I'll take the repair droid because I was tempted by it before.
Perfect. Okay, so that stays blank now. It stays empty until the reshuffling phase. So I got to get 4 or less. I got a 1. So I get an artifact, and I get supply nanites. My army limit is +2. So we have just spent 2 hours and 20 or 2 hours and 40 minutes playing Burning Suns by Sun Tzu Games. So Jamie, what did you think?
Too many words to describe how awesome that game was.
Amazing. It's strange because normally when you start something off, you're like, I for one could tell that Jamie was enjoying this because as soon as Will did something that annoyed him, Jamie was so angry about it. And like, if Jamie gets angry about a game, that means he's invested in it. And I think your main takeaway was it should have gone longer.
It should have been longer.
We played the short game, which like I say, took us about 2 hours and 20 to 2 hours and 30 minutes. And you've not really played many 4X games before, have you? You've played like Galactic Era and this.
Yeah.
So that's basically your...
Yeah, and that's my takeaway. And do you know what? I sort of avoid them because I don't really enjoy games that go on like for more than 2 hours, I think.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And ain't nobody got time for that. And I have a board game group that's quite slow. It includes Will. You know, it's a slow gameplay type element.
We have to keep going off and use the litter tray.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole thing.
So, but I love space themed games. I think for me, you know, Star Trek was my go-to series when I was a lot younger.
Yeah, TNG?
Yeah. The Next Generation. Never Enterprise.
No.
Never Enterprise. So I love, you know, and I've got games like Firelight, which I really enjoy. And the thing I enjoyed about that was the fact that it was a strategy game. But it's a bit like Scythe, so you can just be resourcing and be non-confrontational, and you could win that game quite comfortably in that way. Or you could just go all out.
Yeah.
And I decided that I'd play the game in a way that I would not be the aggressor.
From the offset, you were like, I'm gonna attack everybody, basically.
I'm not going to be the aggressor initially, but if someone was to attack me, then I would go all out. And I think that strategy played really well for me because Will obviously had decided that once again his strategy was just to pick on everyone.
He did one thing and it just, it's just great.
But do you know what I really liked? I liked the fact that there was a card in there which was like this planetary barrage, and my faction had this card that said basically you could take any card away, and I was waiting for Will to play his action. I knew when he was going to play it, he played it, and I was like, right, boom. And I liked it because it was such a strategic element to the game.
Yeah, because you had a particular time you could use that card, and it was all about the timing. I would say though, if the shoe had been on the other foot, I don't think you'd be very happy about that. So for me, I played quite a few different 4X type games before. Probably the most recent one was Eclipse. And the thing about these games is they do take a long time to play, and that could be a massive kind of turn off with these kind of games. You could alter how long these games are, but honestly you do need a decent amount of time to sit down and play them.
And there's no pause element on it, that's the thing.
Yeah. You mentioned at the start of this video about a pause element, and you don't really have that with this. Yeah. But honestly, from my experience with other 4X kind of games, the thing I enjoyed about this, a few things I enjoyed about this which were quite unique. So first of all, I kind of felt that you had to choose when you were doing actions, which was quite good. Like you had to choose
a bit like in if you ever played like Olympus or something like that, where you it's a drafting system in the sense that you pick when you go. Yeah,
and also there was the very start. You chose your faction, your ideology, and your kind of stats for that faction, which were great. It really added a lot to it. And one really cool thing was all the miniatures were specific for the different races, which with these type of games, you don't normally get that. Or if you do, they're going to cost you a lot more money. So yeah, Burning Suns. Can you think of any negatives for this? Apart from a long playtime, but you know that coming in, and also no save mechanic. Is there anything negative you could say about this?
There's an alliance bit on there, and yes, you could align with people when you get benefits on it, but it didn't seem particularly clear as to why and actually how that mechanic works. But and I think if you're playing in F3, I think it would be so easy just to pick on them. So we could have really just picked on Will entirely, the pair of us, and pushed him.
Which is, it's never fun for Will if we're just ganging up on the guy.
While there's no mechanic in there to stop you from not doing anything, there is a mechanic. Like my character had top end thing that said if you're within orbit, then you couldn't build any fleets. So, you know, there was a mechanic there that would have really sort of stopped Will, for example, if we were picking on Will from actually doing what he needed to do. And I think that's the problem with a game where you play with 3 people and it's, you know, all, but with the alliance that added, because if I'd won and we were aligned,
I would have also
you would have also won. So it would have been a 2v1 situation, and there's nothing.
No one's going to come out of that enjoying it, really.
No,
that's the thing. But overall, what are your general thoughts?
I think because I won the game, I feel like brilliant, fantastic. But I think takeaway, yes, I really enjoyed the game. I would play it again, but it's not a game that's going to come out probably more than once a year, maybe once every 2 years, maybe once every 3 years, because you'd have to have the right people.
Yeah.
You'd have to have the time, and you'd have to be in the right mood to play this sort of game. And that's the thing. If you compare, that's what I like Galactic Era. I'm, backing that on Kickstarter. But it's not the sort of game that you're going to play every day. It's the sort of game you get out once, special occasion, Easter, Christmas, Hanukkah,
funerals.
Probably not funerals.
The thing is, when you've got a smaller game collection, that's very true. You're not going to really thinking, oh well, what the kind of value am I going to get out of that? If you have a large collection like myself, it's one of those things where you're like, to be fair, I don't play most of my games more than once a year, really. It's nice to have an option to play this kind of game with the right people, because you don't want to have people who have analysis paralysis, because that could really drag this out. You want to be playing with people who understand the game. It's got quick turns, and you can get a lot out of it.
It's not a new. The thing is, it's not a new person's game, is it? It's not a beginner's game. It's a mid. This is quite nice because you could probably play it with someone who's played a few board games. They get the mechanic, but you couldn't roll into it. It's not a family game.
Yeah.
So not great. Not great in that sense, but overall, I love the game. I would own it.
What?
It would be a game that I'd have on my shelves and would get out and play. Do I think people should buy it? Yeah, I do. I think it's a rare game in its style, genre, experience.
I've played quite a few of these 4X games, and for me, it felt fresh. It felt new, and I loved the fact the miniatures were different for different races. A lot of thought's gone into the artwork on the cards. Really nice. Yeah. And it's the best thing, it's really easy to teach. It took us about 2 rounds to really understand that, and a round took about probably about 30 minutes to begin with, but then it was down to around 15 minutes by the end of it, because we just everyone
it didn't take long. It didn't take long, and actually from a game mechanic point of view, it's very clear and obvious. And the one thing that really annoys me about dice rolling is that it can feel really unbalanced. But this had dice rolling in it, but it didn't feel unbalanced. Yeah,
you also were able to boost your dice rolls as well, which kind of, you had some option there to mitigate that RNG.
And I think where we've reviewed games in the past, I've been really critical of dice rolling. I've always said, well, you need a mechanic in there to mitigate the randomness of dice rolling. And I think this had that, in that there were some things that you could do that you just wanted to pay over the odds to get something you could do. And I think that was a really nice thing, because if you wanted for your strategy that you needed that planet or you needed that thing, then you could pay that and have it. And I think that was the nice thing about the game mechanic. That was the nice thing about the gameplay, is that the dice were there. When you're fighting, it's 20 dice versus 2 dice, or 20 dice versus 10, and you get +1s and -1s, but you didn't feel cheated. If you lost, you wouldn't feel cheated. And I think where you play something like Risk, or there's a game that we've reviewed recently, where you ran into it and you had 20 dice and you were going against 2 dice.
The 2 dice prevail, and you're like, this makes no sense.
And you were just like, how have you beat me with 2 dice? This doesn't work. Yeah. And I think that's the nice thing, is yes, there are dice in it, but actually the mechanic works so well that you didn't, even when you ran roll some bad dice. You didn't feel cheated. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's the world balancing out.
One last question from me is, did it feel like we were playing that for a long period of time?
No.
Which is great, because I played, I think the longest game I've ever played is Axis versus Allies versus Zombies, which was around 6.5 hours. And by the end of it, you really felt like that was 6 hours of your life. Whereas this, it didn't really feel like we've been playing it that long. But and that's great when you're playing a heavy game like this, well, it's medium to heavy, I'd say. They can just drag out a bit, and people's turns can take a while. But with 3 players, I think that's probably a decent player number for this. It didn't feel like 2.5 hours. It felt like about an hour and a half. I was very surprised when I looked at my phone and saw what the time was.
Well, because sometimes when we've got a really long game and we've got a day of filming, we have to compress the game down. So we sort of say, well, if it's 10, we'll go to 5.
Yeah.
And we hit the mark that we said that we'd review, and we're like, no, let's carry on. So we did, and actually we got to the end, and I was like, no, even though I'd won.
Jamie
I was
was
like,
so invested.
no,
Like, no, I want to go another 5 rounds.
I want to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing about it. And I think we have to balance these reviews and say that we play a lot of board games, and we look at a lot of board games, and for us, this is a genre that we're into in terms of the space games, and they tend to be ones that we naturally are more immersed in and enjoy. But I don't really get on with the sort of dungeon crawler style games, so that's the disclaimer here. That the theming for me, and that said, if that mechanic was like dungeons, I probably still would have maybe been invested. I think. But,
yeah, I think the gameplay mechanics really shone
Yeah.
through. There was just so many options. Anyway. Enough of us rabbiting on.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, would you recommend this to someone to buy, to just play, or to avoid?
There's
something new we can do.
Yeah, buy, play and avoid. I definitely wouldn't avoid it at all. I think if you have the opportunity to play it, go to a board game cafe or in a group, then definitely. I wouldn't. If you had a copy, I wouldn't say everybody buy a copy. It's the sort of game that you can pass around with your friends and have a go. But yeah, it definitely in a social sphere of people.
Sure, why not?
Then definitely a copy of Burning Suns is a game that you should own.
Yeah, and from my side, I would say definitely don't avoid this game. Unless you're a very casual gamer, this will be quite a lot for you to take on. I definitely say play this, especially if you played other 4X games. Give this one a try, see how this compares to those things, because I think this streamlines a lot of that. And buy. I would say yes, buy this if you don't own a 4X game, or if you want something a bit different.
I was going to say, you might own a few different types of 4X games, but what I would say is what this is very medium, so it's not hard.
It's not really
game.
heavyweight game like Twilight Imperium. It's not Twilight Imperium. Yes, Twilight Imperium. Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It's not very heavy, so yeah, it's a good mid-level to heavy level kind of game. So yes, let's do the admin then.
Right, okay, so if you really, 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 really enjoyed what you watched,
Or if you only enjoyed it a little bit.
or even you just didn't enjoy it at all, give us a comment, give us a like, give us a dislike if you disliked it, and give us a comment as to what you didn't like about it. It's probably me. We're running a poll. If you want to see more of Will, just we get 100 people say Will needs his own show, then we'll do a thing just for Will. We've had a few requests from people out there, but
Like I say, they were hacked.
yeah.
So you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and of course you can find us on YouTube.
Cool. And if you want those notifications, make sure you click the bell. Do you know what he just did there?
He just cut it off before I got the sign
You know
off.
what it is? Because he was too busy texting people.
He's on the phone to his girlfriend, right?
All the time.
Yeah, and then now he's in the little box again. So until next time, stay safe and keep rolling.